More than 3,000 athletes from 104 countries. United by their abilities, the thrill of competition, and their drive to be the best. The second largest sporting event in the world in 1996. Surpassed only by the Olympic Games. These are the Atlanta Paralympic Games, and this is the triumph of the human spirit.
Please welcome Mr. Christopher Reeve.
It's a great honor for me to be your host tonight. The triumph of the human spirit. The motto of the Paralympics expresses the character of the athletes. And you will meet these heroes soon. They're the reason we've gathered for this historic event. And as they enter this stadium, consider their journeys and rejoice. Rejoice in their accomplishments. Being Master of Ceremonies was a great honor. I so admire the skill and determination of these Paralympians. This program commemorates their accomplishments and pays tribute to the spirit that is the Paralympic Games. The mascot, Blaze, was warmly embraced by fans and participants alike. Blaze symbolizes the mythical phoenix, which rose in triumph from the ashes of defeat. Blaze represents victory over personal challenges and the obstacles that all Paralympians face.
The Paralympic Games epitomizes the world of sport. Our athletes have traveled from virtually every corner of the globe, every continent, every climate, terrain, culture, and history to share one common goal, that of sport excellence.
This is not about excuses. This is about victory. This is not about separation. This is about inclusion. This is about equality. It is about excellence. It is about indomitable will. Indeed, it is about the triumph of the human spirit.
On behalf of President Clinton and a proud American nation eagerly awaiting the Paralympics to begin, I declare the 1996 Paralympic Games of Atlanta open.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the torch of the 10th Paralympiad.
The torch was carried into Olympic Stadium by a hometown hero, Tim Willis, a visually impaired runner from Atlanta. He passed on the flame to wheelchair racer Scott Holenbeck.
Tim came up, we handed off, and you go to turn and look at the crowd, and as you look up, you just see 1,000 flash bulbs, and you're blinded, and then you try to wind your way down the track, and you can't see a thing, and people are screaming your name from every side, and honestly, it was like it didn't happen. Because I finished, and I was sort of like, did that really just happen? It was great. When I finally made it down to to Martha, it seemed like the fastest 100-meter and the slowest 100-meter I'd ever done. And I got to light off with her and sort of share that real quick moment where you hand off to another athlete.
When I got the duty to run up those steps, actually I think I was hopping because I was skipping 2 or 3 or 4 steps at a time. I think a lot of that momentum was because of excitement. This flame represents what this whole movement is about from its inception and from the eternal flame of Dr. Martin Luther King. I thought that it was great being a part of this history of the Paralympic movement.
A highlight of the opening ceremonies was the relighting of the Olympic cauldron. Mark Wellman, a Winter Paralympian, climbed a wire using only his arm strength to the top of the tower, more than 8 stories tall, to ignite the cauldron and the Paralympic flame. The first Paralympic Games were held in Rome in 1960. Nearly 400 athletes competed from 23 countries. And the Paralympic Games have been held every Olympic year since, but not always in the same city or host country. The Atlanta Games were the first to be primarily funded by private enterprise. The bulk of the nearly $85 million cost of the Games was provided by sponsors.
When amputees are out there and they're doing feats that they do, that when they're running as fast as they can, which is pretty close to able-bodied, a lot of people take interest.
In the last decade, awareness of the Paralympic Games has taken off. The Atlanta Games were the most widely televised in Paralympic history. Television crews from around the world attended, including such countries as Iran, South Africa, Brazil, Japan, Australia, and Great Britain. A media campaign entitled "What's Your Excuse?" was an innovative approach to advertising the Games. This theme challenged the viewer to live life to the fullest and to evaluate obstacles in a different light.
I lost my leg when I was 9 years old.
Impossible is untried.
Impossible is something untried.
I was born visually impaired. Faith is a decision.
I was born with cerebral palsy.
There are no hopeless bodies, only
hopeless hearts. So what's your excuse?
It's been said that Atlanta changed everything. Just as Los Angeles redefined the Olympic movement in 1984, it's expected that Atlanta will have the same effect for future Paralympic competitions. The public is finally beginning to understand the true capabilities of these elite athletes. Over 10,000 volunteers helped in a variety of capacities, including medical crews, sporting officials, language interpreters, delegation representatives, security personnel, and computer operators. The Games could not have happened without their tremendous efforts. The Atlanta Paralympic Games included 17 sports, 14 of which are on the Olympic program, and 2 exhibition sports, yachting and wheelchair rugby.
And he would go the distance, making the score 35-14, the United States.
Bocce is an ancient sport that was passed down from Greece, and it's been modified for play by athletes with cerebral palsy. Spain and Portugal dominated this year. In lawn bowls, another unique sport, South Africa was golden, thanks to the efforts of Deirdre Boller. Goalball is designed specifically for visually impaired and blind athletes. The audience has to remain completely silent so that the players can hear the bells that are inside the competition ball. Finland won the men's competition, and the German team took the women's gold. In the Paralympics, athletes with disabilities are classified into major categories. Within these categories are subcategories known as classes. This class system provides a more equal competition between athletes. For the visually impaired, the classes are based on the degree of visual impairment. For athletes with cerebral palsy and athletes who compete in wheelchairs, the class depends on the degree of functional ability. For amputees, it depends on location and degree of the amputation. Also, for the first time, mentally handicapped athletes competed in a limited program. Mark Wellman's spectacular lighting of the Olympic cauldron capped a 1,000-mile journey for the Paralympic flame, which began in the White House Rose Garden with President Clinton. The long journey symbolized the great effort and the sacrifices made by the Paralympic competitors in getting to Atlanta themselves. Each athlete came to Atlanta in pursuit of excellence. Just getting there required commitment, dedication, and perseverance.
Past year, we've really concentrated on making it to Atlanta. The logistics of juggling our careers and private lives and getting two people to work together on one bicycle to train for something of this magnitude is really very daunting.
Kathleen Urschel, a visually impaired cyclist, and Michael Hopper, her sighted pilot, won silver in Atlanta for tandem cycling. And the team of Claudio Costa and Patrizia Spadaccini from Italy were 5 seconds faster, taking the gold in 2 cycling events. The competitive fire was burning everywhere in the Atlanta Games. In the single leg above knee amputee classification, Ben Howe won the gold for jumping 1.92 meters. That's 6 foot 3.5 inches in the high jump. Louise Savage of Australia racked up 4 gold medals on the track at Olympic Stadium. She set new world records in the 1,500 and the 5,000 meters.
Competition makes you better. You're not the best until you beat the best. So we want to take on everybody.
We're all here for one thing, and that's competition, and to show people that just because we do have a disability, it's not the disability that we're about, it's the abilities that we do have.
I saw the wheelchair race in the Olympic Games 2 days after I'd been paralyzed. I was pretty lucky to get that exposure, and I didn't see wheelchair racers, I saw athletes.
Scott Hollenbeck was hit by a drunk driver in 1984, and that caused a spinal cord injury. After the accident, his swim coach visited him, and she gave Scott the motivation he needed.
She walks in and says, "When are you going to be back to practice?" I said, "Well, I don't really know." She said, "Why don't you find out? Next time she comes in, when are you going to be back to practice?" I give her an answer. Well, they said maybe in a month and a half. all right, we expect to see you 6 a.m. Why don't you show up a little early? We might have to figure out a new way to get you in the pool. The bag, she's gone. You know, that was great. That's what I needed. You don't need people's pity, people's sympathy. What you need is their expectations.
Hollenbeck was favored for gold. And although he came close, he had to settle for silver in the 800 and 1500 meters. The spirit of competition bred athletic excellence. In all, more than 200 world and Paralympic records fell in the 10-day competition. And that's more than at any other Paralympic Games. 7-time Boston Marathon champion and marathon world record holder Jean Driscoll set another world record in the 10,000 meters. She finished with an impressive time of 24 minutes, 21.64 seconds. On day 2 of swimming competition, world records were set in 8 of the 15 swimming events. Over the course of the Paralympic Games, the German team would dominate with 56 medals at the Georgia Tech Aquatic Center. Powerlifting has been a Paralympic sport since the Tokyo Games in 1964. New world records were set in 8 of the 10 events. Marla Runyon came to the Paralympic Games with a world record in the women's 200 meter for the visually impaired. That time is only 4 seconds off the Olympic record held by Florence Griffith Joyner.
I'm training and competing 99.9% of my life is in able-bodied. But I am very proud, very, very proud to be a member of USABA and to be a member of Paralympic team. I'm very proud of my teammates, and some of the athletes that I see here are just remarkable. These are athletes that say, you know, I didn't run that great. I'm not too happy with that time, and I'm gonna get better. And you know, it's expecting more from ourselves, changing the whole image, and really educating people and making them realize that we are elite athletes first, by consequence, who have disabilities.
In Atlanta, Marla Runyon added another world record with the gold in the women's pentathlon. Pentathlon world records fell for the men, too. Horst Beyer of Germany and Urs Kohli of Switzerland both set new world records and took home Paralympic gold in their categories of competition. Linda Mastandrea, an American athlete with cerebral palsy, was favored to win the gold in both the 100 and 200 meters. It took a world record performance by Norika Arai of Japan to defeat Linda in the 100 meters. But the tables were turned for the 200 meters as Mastandrea set her own world record and edged out Arai for the gold. Monique Kaltman, who dominated the Barcelona Games, the World Cup, and the U.S. Open, led a tennis team from the Netherlands that set a new standard of Paralympic excellence, winning gold medals in women's doubles and sweeping all medal categories in women's singles. The Dutch team won the men's singles championship as well. For Simon Jackson of the UK, judo isn't just a sport, it's his life. And for Jackson, life is good. In Atlanta, he won his 3rd consecutive gold medal in judo. He was dominant in Atlanta as he'd been in prior Paralympic Games, at Barcelona and Seoul.
in the world in this event, a silver medalist in the 200-meter individual medley yesterday, and a first-time Paralympian from the United States of America, Joyce Luncher.
Just because you have a disability, that doesn't mean that you can't compete. And I think, just looking around, these people have proved it.
And in another classification of the 100-meter butterfly, Joyce Luncher establishes herself as one of the best Paralympians in the world. She won in world record time.
The gold's not determined until the race is over, and now that I'm finished and I'm wearing it around my neck, I just can't believe it. It's really amazing. I didn't even realize when I touched the wall. I heard the announcer say it and establishing a new world record, and I looked at the time again and realized that it was below it, and I don't know, I thought I was going to cry. I can't believe it. I can't believe that that I've swam the fastest time for my class in the world. I never thought that this was ever going to be happening to me.
The USA men's and women's basketball teams were expected to dominate. On paper, the USA had the best talent. But then again, games aren't played on paper. The dreams of gold for the USA men's team turned to bronze due to the Australian team's aggressive defense. The Australians went on to win the gold, defeating Great Britain 78-63. On the women's side, the Canadian sharpshooters prevailed, defeating the favored U.S. women. While it's the goal of every elite athlete to win, only one walks away with the gold.
Exploded off the line, and that's when I actually felt I felt the leg go a little bit, but the last thing I wanted to think was negative thoughts in my head. It was all positive. So what? I'm gonna run till this thing, I don't care what happens. And I ran and about 80 meters it was just slipping worse and worse. It's like you hit a wall. I felt everyone coming, the leg was just slipping off. So for about 25-30 meters I ran strictly, I guess, with my heart, because my leg was off and my bone was just hammocking in there. And, quitting's not in my vocabulary. And just like any of these guys out here, you train too hard not to cross that finish line. I don't care what happens. If I've got to crawl, I was going to finish that race, You just don't quit. Just hope I send a positive message to everybody out there watching, with disabilities and without disabilities. Just the whole idea of the Paralympics and how hard athletes train right now for this. And it's going to take a lot more than someone to lose a leg to stop people from crossing the finish line. You just don't give up.
And for many of the athletes whose journey to Atlanta did not end in victory, they begin on the long road to Sydney to try again. All athletes selected to compete for their country are elite. They must qualify for competition as Olympic athletes do. Many Paralympians hold records close to those of Olympic competitors. Visually impaired swimmer Tricia Zorn is the most decorated Paralympic athlete in history. Since first attending the Paralympic Games in 1980, she has received 41 gold medals, 5 silver, and 3 bronze. In 1992, Zorn missed making the Olympic team by 1/100th of a second. That same year, she won 10 gold medals in the Paralympic Games.
If I could show one person, you know, who's visually impaired out there or who is becoming blind, you know, and they can see something that I'm doing positive, that if I can help them in any way, that inspires me even more to go on and to do, you know, to push myself even farther.
Double-leg amputee Tony Volpentest set a new world record, taking the gold in the 100 meters in 11.36 seconds, only 2 seconds off the Olympic record, and doing it on a pair of prosthetic feet.
I don't really feel like I've crossed a barrier or jumped a hurdle when I cross the finish line. I just feel like, okay, that's one more notch in the belt on the road to the ultimate goal. And you know, this is the ultimate goal right now. And when these games are over, then I'll start to focus on the next 4 years.
It'd be nice someday to line up with the other Olympic athletes and just look from left to right. And yeah, I think that'd be a great experience. And it may not happen to me, but I think eventually it's going to happen.
The Paralympic Games draw together some of the world's most motivated people. These athletes are individuals who've learned to triumph in the face of adversity. The Games also help to break down the barriers in society that still separate people with disabilities.
To see the strength and the spirit here is such a blessing, and it reminds me, you know, that life is good and we have challenges.
My family's back home and I know they'll be watching and supporting, but yeah, our team was just great. It was great support.
Katrina Webb of Australia would get a silver in the long jump, but was surprisingly strong in the women's 100 and 200 meters, taking gold in both.
We can do anything that we set our minds to, and you know, just because we don't have a limb or we don't have, you know, 20/20 vision, we're pushing ourselves to the limit like everybody else does in sports, and we're seeing what we can do.
The spirit of the Paralympic Games goes far beyond competition. Long after the closing ceremonies, the Games are remembered. Young spectators with disabilities have new role models, and they go home with a renewed optimism and determination. And the Paralympic athletes have proven that they are elite competitors regardless of their physical condition. The determination and drive that lead these athletes to the Paralympic Games is what makes them world-class competitors. The flame went out in Atlanta, but it burns on in the hearts of future Paralympians around the world.
and work triumphantly.